ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track, and ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. I'm Frank Morano. I hope you had a great weekend. I certainly did. Busy one, but a good one. The departure of Ingrid Lewis Martin from her role as Mayor Eric Adams' chief advisor has sent shockwaves through City Hall. Her resignation, announced Sunday, comes amidst reports that Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's office has been presenting evidence to a grand jury with potential charges against her looming. While the specifics remain unclear, the investigation appears to center on allegations of bribery and official misconduct, including potential ties to her son and prominent real estate figures. In the interest of full disclosure, I should note that her lawyer, Arthur Aidala, is a very close friend of mine. Aidala maintains that Miss Lewis Martin has served New York City with integrity and has denied any wrongdoing. Nonetheless, this situation is shaping up to be a significant test for Mayor Adams, and it could become a major distraction for his administration. Lewis Martin, often described as the second most powerful person at City Hall, has been a fiercely loyal ally of Mayor Adams for decades. Her role in his inner circle has included negotiating deals and fending off political threats, but this loyalty has come with controversy. Critics have previously questioned her adherence to ethical boundaries, particularly during her tenure as deputy borough president under Adams. For example, allegations arose about soliciting donations from real estate firms with business before the borough president's office. Her resignation letter, which framed her departure as a chance to spend more time with her family. Please. The timing, however, coincides with the most serious legal trouble she's faced, including the seizure of her phones at JFK Airport in September and a search of her Brooklyn home. These actions were part of a broader investigation involving individuals close to her and the mayor, including her goddaughter, Brianna Suggs, who was tied to Adams' campaign fundraising efforts. For Mayor Adams, this marks yet another challenge to his administration's stability. His own trial on federal charges of bribery and conspiracy is set to begin in April, while multiple corruption investigations involving his aides continue to unfold. Importantly, the inquiry into Lewis Martin is led by a completely separate prosecutorial office, the Manhattan DA, suggesting that the scrutiny surrounding City Hall isn't limited to a single jurisdiction. This is very troubling news for a city that relies on steady, focused leadership during tumultuous times.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Ray Dalio, legendary investor and New York Times best-selling author, wants to pass along his understanding of how countries go broke, because he believes the U.S. budget and debt situation needs to be addressed. To give you that knowledge, he has put the draft of his book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle, online for free. It's available now at economicprinciples.org.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Good morrow, everyone. This is The Other Side of Midnight on 77 WABC. I'm Frank Morano. This weekend marked a significant change for pet ownership in New York State. As of Sunday, pet shops are no longer able to sell dogs, cats, or rabbits. This is all thanks to the Puppy Mill Pipeline Act, a law aimed at stopping the flow of animals from large-scale abusive breeding operations into our communities. It's a law 2 years in the making, signed by Governor Kathy Hochul in 2022, and now it's finally in effect. The goal of the law is simple: protect animals and encourage adoption from shelters instead of buying from pet stores that often rely on questionable breeding practices. Activists argue this law will cut off the cruel pipeline where animals are treated as commodities rather than sentient beings. Groups like the Best Friends Animal Society and the Animal Care Centers of New York City applaud this move, calling it a long time coming. According to these organizations, many pets sold in stores coming from facilities where dogs spend their entire lives in cages, deprived of proper food, veterinary care, or even basic socialization. This law aims to end that cycle. For New Yorkers, this change has already caused quite a stir. Over the weekend, it was a buyer's market at many pet stores. Stores offered steep discounts on their inventory. Puppies that once cost thousands of dollars were sold for just a few hundred. For example, in Queens, a Corgi puppy that was originally priced at $3,250 went home with its new owner for only $500. Shih Tzu and Bichon mixes, Pomeranians, and other popular breeds were sold at bargain basement prices as stores scrambled to clear their inventory. Of course, this transition hasn't been easy for everyone. Some pet store owners are devastated. Donald D'Alessio, who's run Astoria Pets in Queens for 42 years, says the law will force him and many other small businesses to shut down. He's followed every regulation, brought only from licensed breeders, and kept impeccable records, yet he now finds himself out of options. Critics of the law say it unfairly punishes ethical pet stores while failing to address illegal breeders who may operate under the radar. They argue that small businesses are being crushed by policies that don't account for the complexities of running a legitimate shop. Meanwhile, activists counter that pet shops have an opportunity to reinvent themselves by partnering with shelters to offer space for adoptions, turning a profit while promoting humane alternatives. For me, I know there are plenty of good pet stores out there run by ethical people who genuinely care about animals, but on the whole, I think this law is probably a good thing from an animal rights perspective. It prioritizes adoption and humane treatment over convenience and profit.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Last week, Governor Kathy Hochul signed a groundbreaking bill into law that represents a major step forward for children with dyslexia and other learning differences in New York. This legislation, the first of its kind in the United States, requires private insurers to cover the costs of critical diagnostic tests for conditions like dyslexia and ADHD. It's an incredible move to ensure early detection and support for students who may otherwise fall through the cracks. Let's break it down. Dyslexia affects an estimated 10 to 20% of students in New York City alone. These children often struggle in school, not because they lack intelligence, but because their brains process reading differently. The earlier these children are diagnosed, the sooner they can receive the tailored support they need. But here's the catch. Diagnostic tests known as neuropsychological exams are prohibitively expensive, often costing up to $10,000. Many families simply can't afford them. Without these tests, parents can't request the necessary services from schools. This new law removes that barrier, opening doors for countless children and their families. Take the story of 12-year-old Grace Gastel from Lower Manhattan. Her parents paid $5,000 out of pocket when she was 7 to diagnose her dyslexia. That test was a turning point. For the first time, she understood why reading had been such a challenge for her. Today, she's thriving in school, with her confidence restored and a newfound love of learning. The stakes are high. Without a diagnosis, children often feel isolated, misunderstood, even stupid, as one student described his kindergarten experience. Mayor Adams, has been very open about his experience trying to deal with dyslexia. E. O'Brien Murray, who's a regular guest on this show, same deal. But with the right diagnosis and support, these same kids can excel. Just look at Matthew, a 7th grader on Long Island, who was once written off by his teachers. After his diagnosis, he not only caught up, but is now in accelerated classes. And this law doesn't just benefit individual families, it benefits society as a whole. It ensures that we're not wasting the potential of bright, capable students who simply need a different approach to learning. Experts agree that early diagnosis is key. Ideally, students are identified between kindergarten and 1st grade, a window where intervention can make the most significant impact. Yet, New York is one of only 10 states without legislation mandating early screening for dyslexia. The new law is a significant step, but it's only the beginning. Advocates are now pushing for universal screenings in schools, which cost as little as $2 per student and take just 30 minutes. I think it's a great idea.
Beam me up!
To be continued.
Impact confirmed. The Slayer has been activated.
Demonic threat level increasing.
Hold the line!
All the power of hell cowering before one man.
id Software presents Doom, The Dark Ages. Available now on Xbox Series X and S, PlayStation 5, and PC.
Rated M for mature.
The Other Side of Midnight.
77 WABC.
Local Spotlight.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you thought the MTA's inefficiency couldn't be topped, brace yourselves. The agency is spending up to $1 million in federal grant money, not to improve service, not to clean stations, and not even to make the subway remotely reliable, but to study the psychology of fare beaters. That's right. They're trying to get inside the minds of people who jump turnstiles. The MTA claims this behavioral study will help curb fare evasion, which they estimate costs them a staggering $800 million a year. They've already categorized these fare beaters into neat little boxes: opportunists, rebels, idealists, youth, unintentional, and low income. And yet somehow they need $1 million to confirm what most of us could tell them for free. People evade fares because they either can't pay or won't pay. Let's pause to appreciate the absurdity. This is the same agency crying poverty while pushing the deeply unpopular congestion pricing plan, which will charge drivers $9 or more to enter Manhattan. This is the same MTA that routinely fails to maintain clean stations, safe trains, or functional signals, and now they want to play armchair psychologist? Let me save the MTA $1 million with some common sense. If you stop enforcing fare evasion, more people are going to evade fares. If there's no consequence for breaking the rules, why would anyone follow them? Since COVID, we've seen a shift away from punitive enforcement, and the results speak for themselves. Subway fare evasion has skyrocketed from 3% in 2018 to 13% today, and it's even worse on buses. And what's the proposed solution? Behavioral nudging. The MTA actually points to examples from places like Colombia and Bolivia, where they use mimes and dancing zebras to shame people into good behavior. Are we really going to pay consultants to suggest we bring mimes into the subway? New Yorkers don't want to be entertained at the turnstile. They want a system that works. Here's the real kicker. The MTA already knows this won't work. They've acknowledged that the criminal justice system treats fare evasion as a joke. Without meaningful consequences, these so-called behavioral interventions, maybe some that guy Brad Richards that Jeffrey Gurian was talking about earlier, are just a waste of time and money. So while the MTA wastes $1 million psychoanalyzing fare beaters, the rest of us will continue to endure delays, overcrowding, and higher costs.
Beam me up!
To be continued.